Good evening, everybody. Welcome on this lovely sunny evening from there. We're going to do this in two distinct parts for everybody. First part we're going to do is we're going to do our normal standards agenda, and then we'll move to the other item that we come to that. When we come to that, we'll do some introductions because we've got some new faces here today, and obviously everyone needs to be aware of who's who as far as that's concerned. So just a couple of things for you before we start. Today's meeting is being filmed for live and subsequent broadcasts by way of the Council's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the Council. Generally, the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcastings and or training purposes. Members dialing in remotely, please only turn your microphones on when you wish to speak, and please remember to switch them off when you have finished. Parts of the hearing will be held in private. It will be clearly stated when the committee will be retiring for private discussion for both awareness of the committee as well as for the benefit of those watching. So to make a start, item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence.
We have two apologies, Chair, one from Vice Chair Kerry Watkins and the other from Councillor Moonrow.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest, please. And I do have a declaration to make, but I will make it at the next part. It's not pertinent to the first part of our meeting here. Item 3 on the agenda, matters of the previous minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 and 4. So first of all, for accuracy, so page 3 and page 4. And now for any matters arising that don't appear on the agenda. So page 3 and page 4. Item 5 of the agenda is the Chair's announcements. I don't have any announcements for this evening, so I'm going to hand you over to the Head of Law and Standards to update on any complaints.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There have been no complaints of a standards nature received since the last meeting. So no, nothing to update on that.
Thank you very much.
I'm starting your speakers.
So item 9 on the agenda, sorry, yeah. Item 8 is the Ombudsman's reply and the investigation, and the fact that we're going to be looking at that matter shortly. But I just want to take item 9 for the date of the next meeting, and we can draw a line under that agenda then. So the date of the next meeting is the 16th of July 2026 at 5:30. Sorry, item 7 was my mistake. I just put a line through it. Is the National Standards Committee forum feedback? And I believe we've all had that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that was circulated earlier today for
yeah.
members of the committee to digest.
That sounds good. So thank you very much indeed. So moving on to the main item for the agenda tonight is the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales investigation of a complaint that's come back to us for a hearing and determination from there. So before we start, if I can just introduce a few members of the people on the committee and get them to introduce themselves actually.
We need to get Councillor Cllr and Councillor White.
Just at this point now?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Before I go back to Councillor Whitehead, welcome.
Evening.
To you for this afternoon. And basically what we're just going to do very quickly is some sort of procedure part of it, and procedure so that we understand where we're going. And that's some introductions from everybody. So we'll just go around the table, to my left first of all, and we'll finish with Councillor Mudd at the end, so over here. So good afternoon everybody, my name is Andrew Mitchell, and for the purposes of today, I'm chairing this panel. To my left.
Yeah, good evening, Mike Wallbank, I'm the Council's Monitoring Officer.
I'm currently, I am the Council's Deputy Monitoring Officer here to lead on.
Excuse me, Chair, can everyone speak up because I've got problems hearing.
Sorry, so I'm Andrew Mitchell, Chair of the Council.
No, it's the lady on the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm Herod Blaney, Deputy Monitoring Officer.
Thank you.
Hi, Leanne Rowlands, Democratic and Electoral Services Manager.
And John Cleverly, Councillor for Bettis.
Chair Whitehead, Community Champion for Bettis.
Richard Morgan, Independent Member of the Committee.
Good evening, Victoria Smith, Independent Member.
Evening, Councillor Paul Worthington, Independent Member.
Councillor John Davis, Community Council Representative. Councillor Paul Coffin.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Jane Mudd and I'm the Labour Councillor for Manchester.
Thank you, everybody. And just another couple more points for us. Just going to confirm the Deputy Monitoring Officer will present the Ombudsman's report to us. And also want to confirm, Councillor Cleverly, you'll have the opportunity to make your representation as well as we go through the evening. And just before I hand over to the Deputy Monitoring Officer to present the case, I need to make a declaration of interest myself. That declaration of interest is that I am Chair of Governors for Newport High School, and Councillor Cleverly is a local authority governor on that governing body.
So am I, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chair, can I, tonight's process, am I at liberty to, is there allocated time for me to make representations on behalf of Councillor Cleverly?
Yes,
So,
you've
yeah,
got to be
yeah.
given an opportunity.
Yes,
to
you
make
can.
that
Okay,
Yeah, more than happy to do that when we get to that point from there. I also want to confirm the committee is quorate, so we've got quorums here, and in a short while we're going to have to make the decision about present public and excluding them from the meeting, and we'll discuss that at the appropriate time. So if I can hand over to the Deputy Monitoring Officer to start the proceedings for us, please, and work through the ombudsman.
Can I ask who TS is?
That is Democratic Services Support. Democratic Services Support.
Okay.
As you are all aware, the Ombudsman has carried out an investigation into a conversation that Councillor Cleverly had with the call handler at the call centre on the 9th of August 2024. I would like to draw your attention to an error in the Part 1 report. On the first page, within the background, it states that the call took place on the 9th of April. That is incorrect. It happened on the 9th of August. The Ombudsman recommends at the conclusion of her report that it should be referred to me for consideration by the Standards Committee.
We got the night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She just said.
The the council has a written procedure for dealing with these hearings, which is to be conducted in 4 stages, which I will take you through. In briefly, the first stage is the preliminary procedural issues. The second stage is findings of fact. The third stage is a determination of whether the code was breached, and the fourth stage is consideration of sanctions if the committee finds that the code was breached. I'll hand over to the chair for the first stage. Some of it has been addressed, disclosure of interests, and the committee is clearly for it. But the committee needs to consider whether the press and public should be excluded.
And we will be doing that by a majority votes. And I'd just like to ask either the Deputy Manager or the Head of Room Standard of the legal precedent for that, because we believe that some of the documents may fall within the remit of that.
Yes, so there is some of the documents have already been declared by the monitoring officer to be exempt. The committee has those documents, but they have not been made public. There is a presumption in terms of the hearing that the hearing should be public unless there is a reason for it to be exempt within the meaning of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. I'm happy to run through those exemptions for the committee if you would like me to.
If you would, please, and then anyone.
They are information relating to an individual, information that could reveal the identity of an individual, information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, information relating to labour relations, legal privilege, information relating to statutory notices, or information relating to crime prevention, none of which I believe apply in this case. The committee should note that the call handler did not wish to pursue the complaint and her identity has been removed from the papers, and it is the monitoring officer who referred back to the ombudsman.
Can I add to that, please?
Please.
Yeah, so the exempted documents include the witness interviews which were taken by the ombudsman, and they include the recording of the telephone call. Both of those would enable the identity of the recipient of the telephone to be identified. So that falls within paragraph 13, which is information by which an individual can be identified. Given that that individual did not want to take part in this process, it would seem appropriate to exclude the press and the public from any consideration of those parts. As my colleague has already identified, beyond that there is a general presumption that these proceedings of this nature are carried out in public.
I have no further representation.
Thank you on that side of it. Colleagues on the committee, any thoughts before we decide yes, no, or?
It is already in the
Not all of the documents are, and that's what we are.
The actual piece is in the public domain.
Yeah, and the press will be admitted for certain parts of it, but it's the consideration of parts of it that we need to consider about the.
Yeah, are we going to be listening to that telephone conversation? Because obviously you just said that would be identified. I think that would be if the person didn't want to be identified and the person did, I think that's understood.
We have the call to hear. Yes.
Sorry?
We do have the call to hear. You can hear it. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion, Chair? Sorry.
Yeah.
Just a question, should Councillor Cleverly be given the opportunity to make representations?
We'll get to that in a second. That's all. Yeah. Doing this part of it.
Yeah, the suggestion I was going to make is if the committee may wish to consider excluding the press and public whilst it's considering the facts of the matter, because that will involve listening to the call and potentially discussing those witness interviews and readmitting the press and the public when it announces the determination of its findings of fact. Just a suggestion for a pragmatic way forward, really, Chair. But I agree Councillor Cleverly should have her say.
Yeah. Councillor Cleverly?
Sorry,
we're talking about the exclusion of the press and the public from part of the deliberations where we're listening to the call.
Chair, can I already say it's already been on social media by the pointy finger who is a blogger for the Conservatives, because he read it in the minutes that appears on the council website. So, and I do believe that he's got an Argus page as well.
But I don't believe the call has been on there.
What have been on there, sorry?
I don't believe the actual telephone call recording of the call has been on there. And that's the matter in the heart at this moment. Okay. And I do appreciate what you're saying about the fact that it's on there, but you know, we're looking at the call and the interview that goes with it from there.
Okay. Can I raise a point? Albeit because the call handler refused to take part in the process, wouldn't that make the call inadmissible? In law, because she wants nothing to do with the process, and yet by default she's taking part because you want to do a conversation. She has said quite clearly she wants nothing to do with the process, and yet we will be you will be listening to that call, which is her voice in real.
So, I don't mind not coming it is evident. I mean, first, Councillor Whitehead, this isn't a court of law, and the committee has a much wider discretion in terms of the evidence that it's able to admit. So the rules of hearsay don't apply. The committee can take account of any evidence which it considers to be relevant. In terms of the call handler not wanting to participate in the process, that doesn't have any bearing on the matter. Other than that, my advice would be that having made that choice, her identity should not be revealed to the public. But the call being played to the committee behind closed doors would not prejudice Councillor Cleverley's right to a fair hearing.
Thank you. So you can't catch my attention. So the motion then is in favour of excluding the press and public. Show of hands, please.
Sorry.
From the call and the other statement part of it.
Yes.
They will be invited to come back in for the rest of it. Yeah, that's unanimous in that case. And as we're going to move to that part now. Yeah. So I understand you're a member of the press and the public. Yeah. So can I ask you to withdraw, please, from us, and one of my colleagues will come and give you a shout when you can return. Thank you very much indeed. Do we need to wait to get you?
Just wait for the red square this time. One second, Chair.
Thank you for that, and thank you very much indeed for yourself. So just before we go any further, we're trying to just make sure the facts are not in dispute from there, and the finding of the facts. So at this moment in time, I'm going to offer the opportunity for Councillor Cleverly and Councillor Whitehead, if you want to make a representation, and for my colleagues on the committee to ask any questions that you feel pertinent to both the presenting officer and to Councillor Cleverly and to Councillor Whitehead.
Say anything first?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was absolutely mortified with my actions that day.
Councillor, can I just stop? This is just about the facts of it first of all.
Yes.
Yeah, on that side.
What led up to the phone call, a week before, I sent an email to Newport Council and to Heading to remove the fly tipping. And that particular morning, I happened to be working in the food bank as I help volunteer there. And I had members of the residents come in complaining about these boys who were drug dealing from where they dragged all this stuff to the lane. They were terrifying them on not letting the public walk past in the lane. And that was the reason why I went outside to the car park at the back to make a phone call. And it was an absolutely terrible phone call. The noise on there, I don't know whether it was the wind or my urinate that was making the buzzing noise, I have no idea. But it was what should have been like a 2-minute phone call. It went on for nearly 10 minutes, you know, and it was awful. And I don't think she could understand me properly because she kept asking me to spell things, you know, and I definitely could not hear her at all, you know. I put that down to my hearing. You know, so and when I reflected on it afterwards, I was absolutely mortified about, you know, the way I handled it. On reflection, I should have put the phone down and run back later on.
Thank you, Councillor Cleverly. We'll get the opportunity to do that a little bit more as we go through. Councillor Whitehead, I believe you.
No, I think if it's regarding character reference and stuff, I mean, the phone call speaks for itself. I mean, there's obviously a massive lack of etiquette there. And something else probably to try and think about something.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions on that side of it?
So we're saying there's a consensus that the facts are as the Deputy Monitoring Officer set them out.
I mean, I don't know whether it's relevant to say that the quality of the call books, so it was that's the first time I've heard that. I mean, I was offered in the past, but the quality was awful of that talk, and the whole quality of it was just not good at all.
If I may, Chair, I mean, I will say, Councillor Whitehead, I've heard that call on my machine in my office, and the sound system in here hasn't particularly.
It might not have helped it.
Just
yeah, that was it. Yeah.
That's the thing that probably needs putting on record.
Yeah, one clear soul.
Quite garbled at times.
For us, making decisions on that, I just thought it was poor.
I listened to it on the file that was sent out to committee members, and I found it very helpful to be able to listen to it on my own. I listened to it on the iPad and it came through quite well, but in a room
It's
such as this, very difficult.
The same here, I've had a chance to listen to the file at home on my own system, which does that immensely. That was by way of just refresh really.
Yeah. Okay, so representation on stage 3 of this committee for this evening, representation from investigating officer and members, questions by the committee. So we've established that the facts are correct.
Yes, so stage 3 was the code of conduct breached. The monitoring officer referred the matter to the Ombudsman in relation to the features of the code, which I will come on to. But just a couple of points to note in relation to, firstly, the telephone call. The Ombudsman considers that the call handler's English was proficient and that Councillor Cleverley's comments about the way she spoke were unwarranted, derogatory and demeaning. And in relation to the email, the Ombudsman considers that the follow-up email did not reference the difficulties with the line or her own hearing abilities, but questioned the call handler's English and ability to do her job. And therefore that the email was not fair or appropriate. In relation to breaches of the code, the monitoring officer considered that there were 3 breaches that should be considered. The first is 4A, which is members must carry out their duties and responsibility with due regard to the principle that there should be equality of opportunity for all people, regardless of their gender, race, disability, sexual orientation, age or religion. The Ombudsman's view was that Councillor Cleverley used unfair and intolerant language towards the call handler and showed a failure to behave in a manner which had due regard to the principle that there should be equality of opportunity for all, irrespective of race, and that therefore her conduct is suggestive of a breach of paragraph 4A. The second breach is paragraph 4B. Members must show respect and consideration for others. In this regard, the Ombudsman considers Councillor Cleverley's comments to be derogatory and humiliating and not what is expected of an elected member. She considers that they were an attempt to undermine the call handler and are therefore suggestive of a breach of paragraph 4B. And in relation to the final paragraph, that is 6(1)(a), members must not conduct themselves in a manner which could reasonably be regarded as bringing their office or authority into disrepute. Here, the Ombudsman notes that the matter did not get into the wider public domain and was quickly contained and dealt with by the Council, therefore is of the view that whilst Councillor Cleverley's comments had the potential to impact her personal reputation, her behaviour is unlikely to have brought her office as a member and her authority into disrepute, and is therefore not suggestive of a breach of paragraph 6(1)(a) of the Code. Any questions?
So we've established that the facts are correct, and we're now establishing which part of the code has potentially been breached by us from here. Any questions from my panel colleagues?
Yeah, on page 26 is a copy of the email sent to Councillor Cleverley from the caller. Yeah.
It's page 26 of the appendices, the exempt document.
Appendix, just before appendix 1, 26.
If I could remind members that we are in a public session.
You got it?
No.
You think page 26? Page 20. Oh. Page 20, but it goes on.
Councillor Davis, Councillor Davis, can I just remind you as well, our monitoring process is just that we're in an open session, so you need to be very careful about the wording you use and identification.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just check? We're talking about page 20.
It's actually 21. It's page 20. It's got 21 on the top, and then it's got another 26 next to it. And it's a copy of the email that was sent to Councillor Cleverley from the call centre.
Yeah. Can I just suggest it's more helpful to refer to the paragraph?
Well, I'm telling you, so people can look at it.
No, that's okay. Yeah. No, so I understand where you're coming from.
Okay, and reading that, I can understand why Councillor Cleverley wrote an email back, because that really isn't written in the way in which the conversation was supposed to be carried out. Okay, you can all read it. It's there's full stops where there shouldn't be. It doesn't say exactly where it was, and it doesn't mention the facts. It says on there the teenage. There's two full stops after the bottom, no capital there. It says the teenagers had set fire on them. Okay, which isn't really the way we speak. And I can understand why, if I received that email, I would be sending another email back clarifying the actual facts, because I don't think that's clear with, you know, what the council was trying to establish in a telephone call.
Thank you. We'll take that into consideration when we do the deliberation part of it. So, Councillor, for yourself there. So, sorry, no, because you just out of my line with that surge as well behind you. So, apologies from that. Any questions or any further questions from my colleagues this side? Just on the facts that's for there at the moment. For yourself, Councillor Cleverly?
Nothing else, Chair.
Councillor Whitehead?
For me, I'm not sure if it's the right time to actually say it.
If you say it, and then obviously our legal will tell us it's in a minute or...
I mean, the whole phone call, I mean, reading back phone breaches, etc., etc. You know, in all honesty, I couldn't see the point of mentioning race in the whole equation. It doesn't clearly, there's nowhere in that phone call that race would be an issue. It's clearly not a great phone call, very garbled, and it's a massive miscommunication on both sides, if you like. And I can hear a bit of frustration, well, I say a bit, quite a lot actually, and I'm thinking it's a standard issue rather than an intent issue. I don't think Councillor Cleverly has literally thought I'm going to speak in a race type of tone with this. None of that clearly happened. I felt frustration, poor etiquette, to be honest. It would be how I would speak. Old school, I heard somebody quite old school talking on the phone there, and I just think the standard was poor, and there's a lesson clearly to be learned going forward. I've never heard, I don't think I've ever heard in all the conversations since I've been a councillor in 2012, I don't think I've heard about standards and code of conduct and stuff. I've never heard a conversation around phone etiquette. Interfacing and things like that in person, yes. But do we do that? Where I work, I'm on the phone all the time, and I'm very mindful for a start. Most phone calls today are recorded, and I just take it for granted, even if it wasn't, that it is. Or I can't see, like Jan, thinking my modern way. Then, if you like, I'm fully aware that a lot of phone calls are even for training purposes. But I think my point is, I don't think there's an intent of anything that they're saying. I'm a little bit disappointed to see that in there. I think poor etiquette and poor standard and poor phone, you know, it wasn't a good conversation to have, and it was, for me, it was very blurred at times. Both were talking over each other, albeit accidentally, because there was frustration clearly. But I've never seen, I think from that phone call, Jan's shoulders have come forward and they had to return to where they were. And I just think this massively affected their life. I see a different person, and contrite doesn't cover it. You don't.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead, for that.
Yeah, I mean, just to say, I mean, if the committee finds that there's a breach, you will get the opportunity to investigate again with regard to sanction if it gets that.
Okay. Happy to be stopped at any time with the due process. It's not a problem.
Okay. From there, just going to this.
Yes, if nobody's got anything to say, then there'll be a deliberation, and that's a closed session.
Yeah. Okay.
Procedure.
So just to go forward from here now, we've heard all the comments, we've heard the evidence part of it, we've heard the tape. There are a number of statements within there, the feedback from there. There's the interview that Councillor Cleverly has had with the Ombudsman's legal investigator from there. So really now it's for us to deliberate and to decide, you know, whether there actually has been a breach of the code of conduct under those parts that were brought forward earlier on by the monitor, the deputy monitor officer, from there. And so that's what we will do now. And for that to happen, can I ask Councillor Cleverly and Councillor Montaigne just to retire, please?
No problem.
Yeah. And if I can ask you to retire as well, sir, if you would, please.
Thank you all.
And we'll wait once again for Yeah, we are. Oh, thank you very much. Okay. Thank you everybody for coming back in a timely manner. Obviously, really important. Councillor Cleverly, I need to address you on this matter because these allegations were made against you, and after some considerable debates and I'm really pleased open and really haven't had the chance to say everything. As a committee, we have found that there has been a breach of the Code of Conduct. We found there's been a breach of the section 4A, 4B, and 4C, and basically, and 6A. Yeah, sorry. So 4A, 4B, and 6A. I should say, not the C on that one. And just to be fair, just to remind you, although you're probably aware, the breach has been found at 4A. You must carry out your duties and responsibilities with due regard to the principles, and there should be equality of opportunity for all people, regardless of their gender, race, disability, sexual orientation, age, or religion. And the committee found that that wasn't the case in that one. For 4B, show respect and consideration for others, and once again the committee found that that wasn't, and those were picked up from both the phone call and of interest in the email that went back at the end of the day. And for 6A, you must not conduct yourself in a manner which could reasonably be regarded as bringing your office or authority into disrepute, and holding a public office as you do, then there was every possibility that that could well have happened, and the committee found that that was also a breach on that side of it from there. Before we talk about sanctions, I'm going to invite Deputy Monitor Office to give us an outline of what will go on, and then once we've done that, you'll have your opportunity to make any representation and mitigation from there, along with Councillor Whitehead. And then once again, I'm going to ask you to retire, and for yourself, sir, to retire again, so the committee then, having heard of what the sanctions can be, will decide on where they go to from there. So are you both content with that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Because the committee has decided that there have been breaches, they must consider the sanctions. There are 3 sanctions available to them. First, that the member has failed to comply with the Code of Conduct, that no action needs to be taken. That the member has failed to comply, this is the second sanction, apologies, that the member has failed to comply with the Code of Conduct and should be censured. Or the third sanction is that the member has failed to comply with the Code of Conduct and should be suspended or partially suspended for a period not exceeding 6 months, or if shorter, for the remainder of that person's term of office. And in considering sanctions, they must be balanced with the Standing Committee's obligation to promote the highest standards in public life. And just a word on the impact of imposing sanctions. Just to be mindful that the councillor would not be able to act in their official capacity on committees or representing their constituents. A financial implication that if the councillor was suspended, their salary would be stopped, their salary for being a member, and their obvious reputational damage. And I think it's also worth noting that Councillor Cleverly sits on a number of committees and would be prevented from doing so should she be suspended.
Could you say the censure?
That the member has failed to comply with the Code of Conduct and should be censured.
Yeah, could you explain what censure means?
It's basically a formal reprimand, because it might be published on the council website. That's the committee.
And my colleagues content with that, because I just want to make sure that everyone understands.
Can I ask what partially suspended means? So would we say suspended from X but not Y? How does that work?
That is my understanding.
Can I ask, has that been the governor as well on the schools?
The Constitution says that you would be, if you were suspended, you would be suspended in the capacity as a member of one relevant authority. So by inference, I would assume that that doesn't mean your role as a school governor, but it may be that it's considered elsewhere.
But can I just say, if you're nominated by the local authority to be that governor from the local authority, what happens then?
I think that would have to be considered
Right.
by, I don't think it would be up to this committee to consider that.
No, I'm just saying, if
I
you're
get what you're
nominated,
saying.
Councillor White, just a second,
if you're nominated from the council as a rep from the council, as a governor from the council, rather than just a ward member or a ward person living in that area, you're still nominated by the council.
But it's not a council role, is it?
But you're in that capacity, aren't you?
What councillor Cofnodion is saying is that where a local authority councillor is nominated to serve on a governing body, they do so as a representative of the local authority rather than a parent governor or a community governor. So in that role, so the query I think is around what would that role in terms of representation, what would that mean? And also what would it mean on external bodies as well, such as because you're on board.
I'm currently on 3 governors in my area.
Can I just interject here? And I have it from the Governor Wales regulations that the only person that can remove a local authority governor is the local authority.
Can I help on it? I mean, the guidance isn't particularly abundant around these queries, particularly with regard to the school governorship and Newport Transport. As you rightly say, Chair, the appointing body for school governors is full council, and the appointing body for directors of Newport Transport is the cabinet. So my interpretation of this is the suspension would not remove those appointments. That could be looked at elsewhere if the council so desired off the back of any sanction applied here. That would be my advice as the monitoring officer.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Harris. Councillor Cleverly, the floor is yours in relation to any mitigation that you wish to make. And Councillor Whitehead, please do support as you see fit.
Yes, please.
Thanks for listening. A bit of irony is not lost on me that we've been sat in a room with a room of reflection. That's something that Jan has clearly been doing for the last 20 minutes since this whole long drawn-out process started. On behalf of Jan, and in reference to a character, Jan is nearly 50 years down the line working in youth services, etc. And with that, that involves working with the youngsters from all diverse backgrounds. And she has never, in all them years, had an issue, yet here we are, which is sad. And she had some fabulous messages, I don't mind telling you, from the same diverse people that she represents. And that has been heartening. Jan took a lot of comfort from that. And that goes without saying that there's a lot of contrition on Jan's part as regards the phone call. Is something that I can't say how deep, she deeply regrets that phone call. And like I say, for 20 minutes, she's had a long time to stew over this, and she really has stewed. I've had like some distressing calls off Jan where she's been in a mess, to be honest with you, in an emotional mess. And a lot of that is to do with obviously the hurt that this poor lady, and it's reputational. Jan's got a fantastic reputation on the estate. And so on, and a lot of it has been voluntary. You know, it's not all about pay, and even this is not about it's not about pay. It's, for Jan, it's a good name, which is gold to Jan, and like I say, absolutely horrified that we've come to this on a personal level with our group, albeit small. Everything evolves, and with that, as I said earlier on, phone etiquette and stuff is something we've taken on board. Albeit, like I said, there's only a few of us, but we have had these conversations that we have to be mindful on electronic devices regarding emails, etc. The writing of them. I mean, now today we've got fabulous co-pilot and stuff, so we're encouraging people to use that to direct them in conversations and answers to queries. Always being open-minded, etc. But particularly for me, interfacing and the phone system, I just have encouraged them to believe and think that every single phone call in the future is going to be recorded. And that's not to say that's excusing anybody, because it'd be different if it wasn't recorded. It's just to say, look, when you're on the phone, you are representing our proud little party, so to speak. But like I say, on Jan's character, I mean, she I think she's a darling on this stage. She did so much. She's in the food bank, slaving away. I mean, the amount of tonnage of litter she's picked up on this stage, she's like Trova Maury's mother at the Wombles, and I think you can remember that, everybody. But yeah, so she's an all-round good egg, and this is something that's gone horribly wrong. We all knew the phone call, it wasn't the best quality. I know people said it could do, but there was a massive miscommunication, and that poor lady obviously has taken that to heart, and I hope Jan's letter of apology to her have helped in some way, sort of say, hey, listen, it's all right, somebody got this wrong and it isn't you. So we are mindful of that. The caller, it was absolutely blameless. It was not hurt. It was a big etiquette issue, and like I say, a standard issue for me. It's a standard issue rather than something quite deliberate. The racial element was never there in the first. It's just an awkward phone call that Jan actually messed up. And on reflection, we don't need to remind her of that, because she's beaten herself up for the whole 20 minutes. And I just would plead with you really on Jan's behalf to take all that as not so much mitigating, because it's not so much mitigating, it's just, look, Jan's got something horribly wrong. Tell her she's got something horribly wrong. Do what you've got to do, because it won't hurt Jan as much as you do it herself, if that helps. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Councillor Cleverly, do you want to take your time?
Sorry, I don't know what more I could say. I'm absolutely mortified of the whole phone conversation. Looking back at it, and I've got to admit it has affected my health over the months and all, and you know, I'm waiting for a gallbladder operation, and my urine hasn't been very good. Been going back and forth to the hospital, to the urine place. They thought it was a cyst in there, and I've had x-rays done, you know, so I'm just really can't apologise enough for my actions on that day, you know, which is totally out of my character, you know, because I've worked with every nationality you could think of over the years as a youth worker: Somali, Yemeni, Chinese. I went to China for 2 weeks with a group of young people, you know, so totally can't say how sorry I am.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to make sure that you're both content that you've had your say on.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that's really important. And I don't want to drag it out, but I just want to make sure that my colleagues here are certain of what the three options that the Deputy Monitor Officer gave us on that side of it.
Yeah. If there are any questions for Council?
Yeah. And on that note, before I ask people to retire once again, colleagues, any questions for Councillor Cleverly?
Hello, Councillor Cleverly. I'm an independent member, and I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, bearing that in mind. So, as you know, the committee's role is partly to uphold standards and to maintain confidence in the process. So, just looking at it from a wider public interest point of view, do you accept that as a member of the public, what happened during the call and the email will not have reflected well on you as a councillor, as far as the wider public is concerned?
Oh, people who know me knows that it was totally out of character.
But I think what she's trying to say, Jan, is that people that don't know you as well, sort of, if people know somebody, you know, it's not you. I think she's maybe asking this. Would you agree that the wider public would say this isn't great, and
As a councillor, I see.
Yeah.
Yes, well, fetch it into district, it's somebody, you know, you can't speak for people, can you? Everybody's different. Yes.
And from the perspective of the public, again, and you're absolutely right, Councillor Whitehead, that is what I meant. Not the people that know you, not the people that know your good work and how hard you work, but if you like, the rest of the community that don't know you. Do you accept that what happened with the telephone call and the email could reflect badly on other councillors, because those people could think that's how councillors behave? The public could think that.
No, I can't say sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Any other colleagues? In that case, if I could ask you once again for the final time, if you would just mind retiring. Sir, if you'd mind retiring as well for us, please. And before we do the nominations, we'll wait for the usual switch over. Yes, thank you.
I'm Elijah.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for coming back, and obviously the process needs to run as it does. The decision we come to has not been easy. We were extremely concerned about the sort of the whole incident and what went on, and we were minded to make a suspension. However, what we also wanted to do was to really make sure that you understood what happened, where you're going, and going forward, that would never ever happen again. And what the committee has decided to myself is that if you are able to give us some assurance that you will do some additional training, and that will be picked up by the heads of mechanic services and identified with what you need, and once that training has been done, and it needs to be done by the next meeting, yeah, depending on what the resources are of the mechanic services, that will then come back to us to confirm that it's been done. And if you accept those conditions, we will on this occasion censure you as opposed to a suspension. But that does not take away from the fact that what happened was wrong, and we feel we've gone that way.
Thank you, committee.
Do I get your
Yes.
agreement that you will continue the training?
Can I say something? I did previously suggest to Jan that maybe she revisits, for instance, the code of conduct, which is, something I think that it's something that and I'm not certainly speaking for all councillors, but it's something that's possibly acknowledged at the time when councillors get elected. It's the code of conduct. We get a lot of things like that in work, of course, it's people not really interested, it's just something you've got to do. So maybe it's things like that, which I think would be very good for Jan to revisit. And any of the training we think is relevant to that, and particularly the interfacing with the public, is a huge one. And it's just a case of, for want of a better description, recalibrating Jan to be the councillor that she was before this sad incident. And again, I'd like to reiterate how contrite she is and how sorry, lest we forget, for the lady in question. It's only on this 20 months of reflection that she's constantly said, I didn't mean to upset that poor lady, I must have said it terrible. So there is a genuine contrition with Jan, and she is, nobody can beat herself up more than she has. And sometimes I've had to pick her up by the lapel, so to speak, to say, come on, Jan, we got to go on, because people are on your case for business in the ward. So, but what I will say is that I thank you for having such a transparent process, and the due diligence carried out, the due process. It's been an eye-opener to see how these things work. And again, this is something I'm sure Jan will take on board. We're mindful that this is the type of place we end up in if we, dare I say, digress in any shape or form. So thank you for that, and thank you for your wiseness for me in coming to what I think is a very sensible decision, and I'm sure Jan will, the shoulders will hopefully start to come back up. She's acknowledged that everything that's gone on, and just to say thank you for listening, and thank you for looking at it in the whole, rather than magnify certain aspects of it. So thank you on behalf of Jan.
Thank you for that, Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Lively. That doesn't take away from the fact that we want to see that training done, and that will be arranged through democratic services. And that's not what you may think is needed. That will be come from
that's fine.
That side of it. Yeah, and now that's delivered on that side of it.
We're happy to be led.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think that concludes the business for this evening. From there, so 8 o'clock. We did the other agenda to close down the meeting and then the next meeting. So thank you very much indeed, everybody. It's been a long night, a long afternoon, early evening. I really do appreciate your inputs, and we've come to the decision we have. Have a safe journey home, everybody, and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you again.